Well, it's Thursday, and you all know what that means. As you all know, Ring of Honor only had 24 hours away to go to, of course, Death Before Dishonor. So they're calling this particular show Duel Before Dishonor or something like that. I'm not sure. We do have some proving ground matches and all this other stuff, which is going to be a lot of fun to enjoy. I can't wait to review what matches are preliminary to involve to that, and we'll see how we go from there. And then, of course, we move on with TNA. As you all know, they're on the road to lockdown. But however, we do have a semi-final match for the Knockouts television title between, of course, Heather by Elegance, and I forgot who else was in it. So this is going to be a good one. Jason Hotch, well, apparently he has been put in the predicament since he defeated Mustafa Ali for the International Championship. So we'll see how things will go. Harley Hudson, as you all know, is put on the line thanks to that so-called rational person Daria against Alicia Edwards. But however, a lot of matches are preliminary as we head, of course, to lockdown. So that's going to be very interesting. And of course, as always, we wrap up our episode as usual with some news updates. Give you guys updates on what's been happening in the world of wrestling, such as what events and promotions are thrown out, who's booked, what matches are set, including developments are happening in the world of wrestling as we speak. So, let's get ready with another episode of the Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Hey everyone, welcome to the Deleted Wrestle Zone. All things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, TNA, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, J-Rod here. So, if you are new to the channel, welcome. This is a channel we do a lot of pro wrestling reviews from various promotions, not only here in the United States, but also in Japan, Mexico, Canada, Europe, the UK, anywhere pro wrestling is not as big, but it continues to grow. We've been, of course, do discussion videos, talk about various topics such as the wrestlers themselves, the promotions, factions, storylines, whatever we want to talk about. We've been, of course, do more news updates. If certain information was unable to be on this episode, we can either put it on the next one or on a separate video by itself. We've been, of course, do some real-time news updates to keep you guys on alert if something has happened in the world of wrestling that needs to be addressed ASAP. We've been, of course, got to Nike Sayaka Watch and various other cool wrestling content as well. So if you like what you see, please subscribe to us and click on that subscribe button. You'll be getting a lot of daily reviews and other cool wrestling content as well. But if you like this episode, please give us a like on the like button or a nice comment in the description down below. Now, enough with the jibber jabbers, let's get to it. So, let's begin with Ring of Honor. Okay, Ring of Honor. So they're calling this Duel Before Dishonor or something like that. I don't know. But anyway, we opened up with a proving ground match for the ROH Women's World Title. Athena faces off against Gia Scott. I have seen her before, I just can't remember when. But of course, this would be considered like a warm-up match for Athena, who she'll be defending her title against Azuki in 24 hours. So that kind of sets it up right there. But of course that Athena was going to walk away with the win. She even applied a surfboard stomp and just like that. And once again, sending a direct message to Azuki that she's going to show her why she is the forever champion. So we'll see what happens until then. Now, our next match, we have Preston Vance taking on Danny Grandview. I don't know who this guy is, but anyway, obviously this match, Preston Vance was going to win. As you all know, he's being reunited with the members of the Dark Order. But he did pick up the win when he applied a discus lariat, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, boom, adios, it's over. But however, we did see the other members of the Dark Order, Alec Reynolds and Evil Uno, taking on Action Andretti and Hook. Now remember, Action Andretti will be facing Lio Rush for the ROH World Television title. And that's the whole idea. This will be a bit of a warm-up for him before he faces Lio Rush and that sort of thing. But however, it was in fact Action Andretti that picked up the win by, of course, applying a 450 onto Reynolds. And just like that, 1, 2, 3, boom, it's over. Now, we did see Lio Rush, of course, with a bit of the vignettes about what's happening, doing the same old thing. Cuts and all this other stuff. I can't wait to see how that's going to play out. Now, our next match, we have Alec Price versus Daniel Garcia. This one was a bit of a, a hoss fight, but in a different standard, of course. But it was a pretty good one, not going to lie. I mean, Alec Price, I have seen him. He's like a beast. So is Daniel Garcia. But Daniel Garcia was able to put him away with a pile driver. And just like that, 1, 2, 3, boom, out of there. Now, Jordan Oliver put out a video promo talking about his old friend from the independent scenes. And that person is, of course, the Prodigy, or as people know him as the Prince of the Pacific Northwest, Nick Wayne. Apparently, he talked about their times in the independence, flying together, driving together, that sort of thing. Telling him, did you really think I was going to stay way behind or away from you, that sort of thing. So we will see those two face off each other anyway. Our next match, we do have another proving ground match. We have Lio Rush, of course, versus Joe Keys. And obviously this match was going to fall in favor of Lio Rush, and he just won the match by using that submission that we have often seen. However, of course, Action Andretti showed up in order to try to beat him down ahead of Death Before Dishonor. But however, Lio Rush brought in a chair, and he goes, cuts, because the chair contained barbed wire. So you can tell how that was going to be. And then, of course, Action Andretti ran like a coward. So you can tell how that was going to turn out for him. Now, we did see an interview with the Outrunners and, of course, Dalton Castle. They are prepared to face Lethal Twist to defend the ROH 6-man tag team champions. As you know, Lethal Twist have been aiming for these belts right after, of course, when Blake Christian has failed to obtain the ROH world title. And now they're aiming for these belts, saying that they are the true masters of what they believe in. That sort of thing. But, of course, we did hear from them that saying that it will be a new era for them once they win these belts. But we'll see what happens at Death Before Dishonor. Now, our next match, we have Mina Shirakawa, and once again, she's your queen to be. Yep, Queen Aminata, of course, taking on Erica Lee and Brittany Blake. Now, obviously, this match was going to go in favor of Aminata and Mina, and of course, it was Aminata off with the head onto, Erica Lee, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, boom, it was over. Now, Deonna Purrazzo, as you know, she'll be defending the ROH Women's Pure title against Steph Delanders, who, of course, as you know, Deonna Purrazzo, in my book, is exactly what the standard is of being a pure wrestler. But Steph doesn't know the rules, but she acts like she thinks she is the best. I mean, we hardly see Steph Delanders in these type of matches, but it is what it is. But we'll see what happens at Death Before Dishonor. Now we move on, of course, with Jordan Oliver versus Nick Wayne. Obviously, we all know the history between them, and man, these guys went all the way. But however, it was, of course, Nick Wayne with the brainbuster, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. But however, Nick Wayne decided to punish Jordan Oliver even further. Now, I was expecting Alec Price to show up, but however, of course, Nick Wayne was attempting to use the two chairs, use a concerto onto Jordan Oliver. But thank God for the ROH World Champion Bandito that made the save, so you can guess how that was going to turn out. So it was a lot of interesting. Now, our next match, we have a Pure Rules match. We have, of course, Katsuyori Shibata versus Wheeler Yuta. Now, obviously, we know these two guys have faced off each other, and now, as you know, they're in different paths and all that. But, of course, we know that Wheeler Yuta has been involved in Pure Wrestling before. He was a Pure Champion, so is Shibata. And, of course, This was ended with, of course, a submission by Shibata onto Wheeler Yuta, and just like that, adios, it was over. Now, Nick Wayne, as you know, spoke about Jordan Oliver's past with him and all this and that, so you can guess how he feels about the whole thing with the past. But we'll see what happens until then. But however, Nick Wayne, as you know, he has a date with Destiny in 24 hours facing off Bandito, so we all know what that means anyway. Now, our main event is a Tornado Tag Team Rules match. Sky Blue and Marina Shafir, once again, they team up. They face against Zeta Steel and Red Velvet. And I thought it was a very interesting match. It was brutal. I mean, weapons were being used and that sort of. But however, this match ended with, of course, Sky Blue applying a Code Blue onto Zeta Steel. And just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. However, it was later foretold that all 4 ladies involved in this match will be involved for the ROH World Television title. So that means it's going to be a fatal 4-way. Sky Blue versus Marina Shafir versus Zeta Steel versus Red Velvet. So that's pretty much what's going to happen there. Now, the programming didn't end there. It ended when we saw, of course, the Dark Order reuniting with Preston Vance. But however, of course, one person is not happy to see him, and that is, of course, Johnny Hungy, John Silver, because he hasn't forgotten how he betrayed them. He was telling, hey, did you guys forget how he hurt Brody's heart? You know, that sort of thing. That's something I'm sure it's going to take a while to get over, you know, because he's not wrong about what happened. But we'll see what happens until then. But for now, that's how we end things here. But let's finish off our episode with another review with TNA. Okay, final review. As you probably know, TNA Wrestling are on the road to lockdown. So battle lines are being drawn, preliminary matches are taking places, and other things as well. Now, we open up with Mustafa Ali. Now, as you all know, he is still ticked off over the fact that he lost the International Championship to Jason Hodge. So he basically gave the order to John Skyler to challenge him for the belt. So that kind of sets it up. Now, you can tell that John Skyler has possibly no choice to do this against his own best friend and tag partner. Well, that kind of put him in a predicament. Even Jason Hodge feels the same way. I mean, he does not want to face his own tag team partner, but he may have no other choice because this is what Mustafa Ali wants. So we'll see what happens until then. Now, our next match, we have Rich Swann versus Mr. Elegance. Now, of course, Mr. Elegance, for many of you who know this or not, he's been, of course, undefeated in singles actions. I think he's only undefeated because he has, of course, needle nuts behind him. And then I'm talking about the Chihuahua himself, the Casileria, whatever, basically getting involved. But, however, it did not work out pretty well for him because somehow Rich Swann was able to counter the excuse-moi, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, Rich Swann picked up the win. And of course, during exclusive content in the back, well, Mr. Elegance cannot believe that his undefeated streak is out. And of course, that Chihuahua is to turn into overrule, saying that there's no way he would have lost this way. But it is what it is. The results, it is. So, yeah, we'll see. Now, our next match is for the TNA Knockouts television title in a semifinals match. Now, we all know that M by Elegance has already been in. However, Heather by Elegance is also involved in this one too, and she faces against Jada Stone. Now, obviously, we know that it doesn't matter from, of course, the Elegance brand's perspective, that they are determined to win this belt and bring it home where they feel it rightfully belongs. But Jada Stone was able to defeat her by applying the Spark Stunner, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, boom, is out. Now, it's now been confirmed that Elena Black has challenged for the TNA Knockouts World title. So that means, of course, Xia Brookside might have to contend with her. But of course, you know how these video interviews, it goes on back and forth and all that. But we'll see where that goes to there. Now, of course, the Elegance brands, of course, are, as you know, not happy with the results about what happened. They call this a disaster. But the one thing that right now that matters is a few things. One is the fact, of course, that Heather and M have an opportunity to challenge for the Knockouts belts. So that's something they would have to deal with. And not to mention in hopes that M wins the TNA Knockouts television title. So that is one of the priorities, knowing that they lost. But we'll see where that goes. Now, our next match is called a Lethal Advantage match. Now, as you know, we have that match where two teams will be facing off each other inside a steel cage, but the entire cage will be shut down and everything inside will have weapons. We have on one side the System. We have Alicia Edwards, Eddie Edwards, Bear Bronson, and Brian Myers. Now, Cedric Alexander already has something in mind. They face us against, of course, Ricky Sosa, Fabian Eichner, who else? Casey Navarro, and Jada Stone. Now, this match gives the advantage. Now, for those who are new, who don't know exactly what is this, whoever wins this match will have the advantage. Now, it would start out with 2 1-on-1. However, the winning team will have an advantage. Will be like the 2-on-1 until, of course, the opponent is evening out, and that kind of sets it up. So that's the idea. But of course, we have Fabian Eichner and Brian Myers are determined to win this one. But in the end, it was Brian Myers that was able to get away with it, of course, when he applied the roster cut. And just like that, 1, 2, 3, the System gets the advantage. So we'll see what happens at Lethal Lockdown. Now, Harley Hudson had a video call with Tracy Brooks, who many of you know, people call her the original Knockout because she was the first one there. Getting advice and wisdom from her, knowing too well that Harley Hudson has been put in a position where her career in TNA has been put on the line by that weasel, Daria Ray, who is determined to get rid of her. So basically, but Tracy said that she loves her style and everything, but the one thing she feels like she's missing out is to be a knockout. And that's exactly what she is intending to do. Now, our next match is, of course, for the TNA International Championship. Jason Hodge defends the title against John Skyler, but this is the one thing that Jason Hodge does not want. He does not want to face his best friend. But, of course, John Skyler, he was being ordered by Mila Moore by orders coming from Mustafa Ali. But, of course, things got out of hand when the dumbass Secret Service showed up out of nowhere, and then Agent Zero, who I like to call Agent Doofus, showed up and caused a disqualification and dismantled Jason Hodge. And of course, Mustafa Ali is declaring that he will regain what was taken from him. But we'll see what happens until then. Now, it seems the Righteous has their sights set on BDE. Now, ever since BDE arrived, he has been making headways. And it seems now the Righteous want him to wake up and join him, feeling like he's better off with them and abandon what he is. And that sort of thing. But, of course, Rich Swann is by his side. But we'll see where that leads us there, too. Now, our next match, we have Alicia Edwards versus Harley Hudson. Now, of course, if Harley loses, she is out of TNA. But, of course, Daria Ray was in the commentary because she wants to see her fall, and that's exactly what she intended to do. However, of course, what she did not anticipate is that somehow Harley was able to roll up Alicia Edwards, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, boom, she picked up the win. And then, of course, Alicia Edwards decided to attack her, try to humiliate her more. And then, of course, Eddie Edwards gets involved in this. But thank God for Jada Stone, who will be dealing with them at Lethal Lockdown. We'll see what happens from there. Now, our main event is Nick Meneth and Ryan, or should we call them Meneth brothers. They team up with AJ Francis and, of course, Frankie Kazarian. They take on the Hardys, Moose, and Elijah. So, as you know, the Hardys will defend their tag belts in Lethal Lockdown against the Meneth brothers. Moose will contend against Frankie Kazarian, and Elijah towards AJ Francis. So you can guess how this is going to be. But all hell was breaking loose regardless. But anyway, it was the Swanton Bomb by Jeff Hardy onto AJ Francis that became the deciding factor. And just like that, 1, 2, 3, boom. The Hardys, Moose, and Elijah picked up the win. However, the programming didn't end there. We did see Cedric Alexander was attacked from out of nowhere and lay flat on his back. And what's strange is They mentioned that this was the same kind of thing that happened to Moose. If you guys remember, he was laid flat when they found him, and no one knew exactly what they meant. Now, I think some people are going to think that Leon Slater had something to do with it, and I'm sure Cedric Alexander will say. But if I was a betting man, I'm saying right now that someone who's not involved with both Moose or Cedric Alexander's business decided to attack them for no reason or for some specific reason. We'll see what happens as we go. But as of right now, we are done with TNA. Let's move on with our last and final thing, news updates. Okay, so welcome to our news updates. So let's begin with upcoming events, as always, starting with GCW. Now, as you know, we have the LA show on the 12th of September in LA called No Signal in the Hills. Now, they did announce there's going to be a #1 contendership in a DLC match for the Ultraviolet Championship. We have Dr. Redacted versus Nino Extremo versus Mr. Danger versus JKM versus Anakin Murphy versus Jack Christian Napier, who also is a member of Adam 48. As you all know, his teammate Otis Coker will be defending the belt against Viper, so you can tell how that's going to be. Then, as you know, we have the 2-day event in Atlantic City called Fight Club that will take place on the 10th and 11th of October. Now, they haven't announced yet who is going to participate, but we'll be waiting for that too. And then, of course, as you know, they had the Crossroad events on the 7th of November in Indianapolis. They just announced Nate Webb and Scotty Vortex will be involved in this one. Now, we have Kitsune Women's Wrestling with the Kamiyu Goes to Hollywood, which is, of course, named after Yuki Kamifuku, who will be having her final appearance in the U.S. before she retires. They just announced 2 referees will be participating. The first one is JC, and the other is Chris Massey. I don't know who these guys are, but they are been booked as the referees for the night. West Coast Pro has their upcoming event, which is West Coast 8. They'll take place on the 13th of November. They just announced Marvelous Tag Team and former tag champions Magenta, consistent of Rico Kawahara and Maria, will be participating, so this is going to be a lot of fun. Now, as you all know, we did hear recently Natsupoi will be retiring from pro wrestling at the start of 2027. They just announced the event. It will take place in Yokohama Budokan, called New Year Dream 2027 by Poi. So yes, so that's going to be a very interesting. This will be the final time we all get to see Natsupoi. I wouldn't be surprised if her husband shows up. I mean, I'm not sure if he will be participating on well, I think he will for Wrestle Kingdom, which is the following day. So that is something we could expect. Anyway, that's pretty much for upcoming events. We only have one, of course, development. Many of you may or may not have heard that Ilja Dragunov is leaving WWE. We haven't seen him for a long time. We know he was out on injury, but a lot of reports are coming in saying that WWE just don't see him making the numbers, that sort of thing. This is something we have seen many times with WWE, where they just don't see the wrestlers will be at the top of the mountain. It's the same thing we saw with, of course, what's her name, Mercedes Moné. They just didn't see her that she would be a locker room leader, that sort of thing. And I'm sure many of you would say it's a little horse crap from them to do that. Hey, it's their fault. That's the reason she went to AEW, and that's the reason she wants to reinvent herself, whether WWE likes it or not. But of course, the fan base needs to understand this is WWE's fault. They dropped the ball, so it's their mess. They need to figure out how to fix it, or else they won't get her back again. So we'll see. But for now, this is what we got, and let's call it a day. Well, I hope everybody enjoys this episode. Coming up now, I haven't decided yet exactly what I'm going to do. I know Death Before Dishonor by Ring of Honor is going to happen. We have AEW Collision coming up soon and all this other stuff. We'll see how things go. I am considering maybe combining both Ring of Honor, AEW Collision, AAA, and of course MLW together in one episode. So we'll see how things would go on my mode, of course. So we'll go from there. But as of right now, let's see how things would flow from there. So I think that's pretty much it. So until then, I will see you guys in the next DWZ time. Same DWZ channel. I'm going to bid all of you adieu. So, goodbye. And have a nice day. Bang.